Well, good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? I hope everybody can hear me okay. Okay, well, let's get started because time is of the essence and I want to respect everybody's time today. Welcome to today's Rancho Southeast evening webinar. My name is, or I should say, Uh, this is your class, the Introduction to zipForms 101, basic usage of zipForms. Just a quick introduction of who I am. My name is Anthony. I work with the association. I've actually been working with the associations now going on a little over 17 years. I started off in the MLS department, so I know guaranteed I will speak to everybody regarding rules, regulations, violations, all that fun stuff. If What I'm also involved with at the association is the Rancho Southeast Association of Realtors member outreach program. And what the outreach program is designed to do is give you training on all your tools and products. So I give trainings on MLS, how to run searches, how to modify listings, create CMAs, all that fun stuff. I also train on zipForms, which is our big topic today, how to put together your transactions electronically, some basic usage of zipForms, which is what we're going to go over today. We also go over and give training on digital signing, as well as all the advanced tools. And of course, I train on technology, how to use your mobile tablet devices for your real estate business. And the whole goal behind that is to help you go paperless in your business. Maybe not get rid of it fully, but maybe get rid of enough of it to make your lives a lot more efficient. And of course, what we're dealing with today with our stay-at-home orders and is real estate industry essential or not essential, this, that, and the other. This is where we're going to really shine um, in our trainings to be able to start utilizing technology for your real estate business. And excuse me 1 second here. I'm just going to um, sorry about that, everybody. Just a coworker wanting to chime in here, so I gave her the link and the email. So there we go. So sorry about that. So basically, what we're going to do today is be able to show you technology to be able to put together your transactions electronically. Now, by any chance, do I have anybody attending today's webinar that's a brand new agent that they haven't even signed up for zipForms ever, or have not really worked with zipForms all that much? Do I have anybody like that? I don't see any questions. Okay. Nope, nobody. Okay, not a problem. So then we're just going to really, oh, wait a minute. Yes, me. Okay. Thank you very much, Veronica. So this is what we're going to do. I'm just going to leave this presentation here real quick. And then what we're going to do is we're going to very simply go to the web. So open up your web browser. And for being a brand new member, this is where you're always going to go. You're going to go to www.car.org. Now, zipForms is a state-provided member benefit, and what zipForms is a electronic platform that allows you to access contracts electronically for your various different transactions. Okay, so nowadays with C.A.R. not even wanting to print paper contracts, they're giving you as a realtor member absolutely free the ability to access more than 349 plus C.A.R. forms electronically to put together your transactions. Now, once you go here to car.org, what you're going to do first and foremost is you're going to go over to the top right-hand corner to where it says sign in, and you're going to click. Now, when you click on sign in, you have here an area for your username and password. Well, if you are brand new to C.A.R. and you've never logged in before, you have to create your logins. And how you're going to create your logins is over here to the far right corner and you're going to click on where it says register. Okay. When you click on register, you're going to be taken to a section where you're going to put in your NRDS number. Now, your NRDS number was issued to you by the association at the time that you joined. Okay. This is not to be mistaken with your DRE license number. Okay. Your DRE license number was issued to you by the state. Your NERDS number or your NRDS number was issued to you by the association. So if you're a brand new user to Rancho Southeast Association, I do believe that your number begins with 193, if I recall. Okay. Now my number is a little bit different, but my number is 2055, and then of course it's followed up by several other numbers. Okay. Now once you input that number, then you're going to put in your legal last name, what's on your DRE license number, and then you're going to hit submit. Now, when you hit submit, very first time that you do this, you're going to be sent an email by C.A.R. to confirm that you are who you say you are. You're going to then go into that email. You're going to click on it. When you click on it, it's going to then ask you to create your own unique username and password for zipForms and C.A.R. Once you create that username and password, put it down in your password list somewhere, either the pad of paper that's over by your desk, or create a password list electronically that you're going to password protect. Okay. You do not want your web browsers to ever remember your passwords, just for security reasons. Okay. Now, once you've done that, then anytime you come back into CAR.org, you're going to come right here in the middle of the screen, and you're going to click on this big round circle that says zipForms Access Now. When you click on zipForms Access Now, and got to get back to my clicking tool here, you're now going to input that username and password you created. By the way, it will be case sensitive, so if you're going to use capital letters and numbers and things like that, that will appear. Now when you click on sign in, now Veronica, for your very first time, you're not going to get this screen right away. Where you're going to get the very first time that you log in is the following. One, you're going to be taken to a profile screen that says, please verify your profile information, most of which will be filled in because of your information pulled from NRDS. But the two things that you're going to input in there is your email address and a mobile phone number. Once you put that information in and you hit continue or submit, it will then take you to an area where you can now agree to the terms of usage. You're going to say agree to the terms of usage. Once you do that, you're then going to be given an entire chart of information that you can access at no cost to you for being a C.A.R. member. The very first choice that you're going to choose at the very top of that list is zipForms Plus Access Now. Once you choose Access Now, you will then, from this point on, be taken to this screen here. It's basically an advertisement screen, at which point you're going to wait for the little yellow button to appear at the bottom right corner, and then you're going to click on Continue. When you click on Continue, you are then going to be taken to your transaction list within zipForms. This will now display all your created transactions that you have created or will be creating within zipForms itself. Okay. So once you get to this section here, you're now ready to create transactions. Are there any questions on this so far? Am I going too fast for anybody? And by the way, Veronica, did this help? Yes, it did. Okay, great. Does anybody have any other questions so far before we can proceed further? And again, we are recording today's webinar, so you will get a copy of this. So this is going to be a really nice tool for you to be able to review what we go over today. But we are going to go over a lot of basics today. No other questions? Okay, good. So From here, what we're going to now do, I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a transaction. Okay, so whether you're representing a seller, a buyer, a landlord, or a tenant, we need to be able to make transactions for the various different properties that we are going to be helping people buy, sell, lease, and so on and so forth in our real estate career. Now you might think, oh geez, it's going to be really hard to create a transaction. I can tell you it's really not. Let me show you how easy it is. Ready? We're going to come over towards the top right corner. And whoops, when we click on that top right corner, we're going to find that button that says new right here in the top right corner. When we click on that button that says new to create a new transaction in our transaction list, we're now going to be asked real quickly, what type of transaction are we going to make? Are we creating a new listing for a seller? Are we creating a new purchase offer for a buyer? Are we creating a new lease for a landlord? Or are we creating a new lease listing for a tenant to lease a property? Well, maybe I'm representing a buyer today. So I'm going to come over here and click on new purchase offer. When I click on new purchase offer, I'm now going to name the transaction. Naming a transaction should be very simple, okay? Some agents will name it the client's name. Other agents will name it the property's address. Other agents will name it a combination of the two. What I tell agents is name the transaction however is going to be easiest for you to remember which transactions you're working on for which clients, right? If you've got a buyer that's making multiple different offers, you probably want to make it a combination of their name and the property address. That way it helps you remember which transactions you're helping this client out with. If it's a seller's transaction, maybe you can get away with just the property address unless it's an investor seller who's selling multiple addresses. Then maybe you do want to make it a combination of the two names as well. Whatever is going to be easiest for you as an agent to remember who this transaction's for which property you're representing them on, and which side, okay? Excuse me. So for now, we're going to name it John Smith's 123 Main Street offer. We're now going to select what category. So maybe typically this is for a residential for sale property that they're making an offer on. And now all I'm going to do very simply is come straight down to the bottom to where it says save. When I click on save, I have now officially created the transaction within my zipForms account. So now what do I have to do? I now need contracts at this point to put together the transaction for the client. Well, how do I add the contracts? So after I make the transaction, here at the summary area, what I can now do is come immediately over towards the right-hand side and click on this big giant blue button right here that says All Forms. When I click on All Forms, I'm now going to be able to display all of C.A.R.'s forms in their zipForms library. There are more than 349 plus C.A.R. forms for buying, selling, and leasing properties in the state of California. What I want to do is go up and down this list typically and find the form that I need and click on it and add it to the transaction. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Tony, I do not want to go up and down an entire list of 349 plus C.A.R. forms for buying, selling, and leasing. I just need maybe 2 or 3 forms very quickly and easily. Okay, not a problem. It's very easy to find a form in this list. Right above the, right in the middle, just underneath where it says California Association of Realtors, which by the way, this is a library, or what library you're currently accessing forms under. Underneath this choice, or underneath this option, there is a box here that says search for form or for name or description. So what I'm going to do with this box is I'm going to either type in the forms number, like as an example, RPA, which stands for Residential Purchase Agreement. The moment I type in the forms number, Now the forms list sorts to give me every form that has RPA as either the number of the form or part of the title of the form. Now from here, I can just simply find the form very quickly and easily and click on it to add it to the transaction. Now, if I don't know the number of the form, but I know part of the name of the form, like, oh, I don't know, disclosure. Now the forms list sorts to give me every form that has the word disclosure as part of the title. And then again, I can find that form very quickly, click on it and add it. So what you want to do here is very quickly and easily type in the form that you're looking for, find it, click on it, add it to your transaction. Once you've added the forms to your transaction, now it's just a very simple come to the left, click on the form. Now we can click on the form again and begin to hopefully here edit the form and put in my terms. That's how easy it is to make a transaction in zipForms. If you did nothing else, this is what you could do. And with the feature of print, I can now print out my contracts to take with me on an appointment. Are there any questions on how easy it is to make a transaction? Now, what makes zipForms, if there are no other questions, let's go over some other cool things here real quick. So yes, we can make these transactions all day long within 5 minutes, adding in the forms or creating the transaction, adding in the forms, typing up the forms and printing them out. But we need to make our transactional lives a lot easier, right? Because there are a lot of pages to a lot of documents that we want to be able to type stuff on, but we don't want to have to repeat typing information like addresses and things like that. So this is where all these other extra tools are going to kick in that zipForms has to offer to you as an agent that's going to make your transactional life that much smoother and easier. And this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to start off with creating a transaction again. So here we're going to click on new. We're now going to make another offer. And here again, we're going to name the transaction. This time we're going to create another John Smith offer for 789 Main Way in, oh, I don't know, Cerritos. And of course, we're going to click on residential. But this time, before I click on save, I already know what property my client's making an offer on, right? Because I've shown them the property, I've pulled up the property in the MLS, and now instead of me going into the MLS where I'm now going to have to either make a printout, look at the printout, type in information from the printout onto my forms, let's make it easier. We're going to utilize a button here just off to the right of making a transaction called Mls Connect. What Mls Connect allows us to do is import MLS data directly onto our contracts and forms. Okay, it's a really easy way of being able to fill out your forms very quickly and easily with some information already pre-filled in directly from the MLS. Okay, we know the MLS number, hopefully, to the property that we're making the offer on. So with that said, what we're now going to do as we're making the transaction, we name it, we choose the category, we're now going to come immediately over here to MLS Connect and click. You'll notice here that a window opens up. It defaults us to our MLS system. We notice here that down below where we can find a property, we have the property type defaulted to residential. And then we have a box here for the MLS number. Now, this tool can be used on any property that we are making an offer on, whether it's a lease, land lot, mobile home, whatever. Now, if you're creating a transaction for another property type other than residential, before you type in the MLS number, click on the down arrow next to the list type and select the appropriate list type. Reason why you want to make sure that you choose the correct list type is that when we type in the MLS number here in this box, when we go to find the property, if the MLS number does not match the list type of that MLS listing, we're not going to be able to find the property. So it's make sure that if this is a lease or a mobile home or a land lot listing in the MLS, click on the appropriate list type before typing in the MLS number. Now, with the MLS number or list type selected, we're now going to type in the MLS number to the property. And I'm going to use a super old MLS number here for our demo. And now I'm going to say, find me this listing. And hopefully I've now got C.A.R MLS and zipForms talking to each other. And hopefully we will find, knock on some wood, the listing. With the information here, we're now going to say, use this MLS data. Now when I hit save, we're immediately going to be taken to that summary screen of the transaction. And we notice here that now there's information pre-filled in because it's pulled it from the MLS. So now when I go to add in contracts to my transaction, like the cover sheet, the purchase agreement, so on and so forth, and now I go to click on the form, like the cover sheet, we're going to see here page 1 of the cover sheet where I can type in my client information. But now when I go down to say page 2, I now immediately see property information pre-filled in. As a matter of fact, what's really nice about Mls Connect is that it's going to actually probably put in extra stuff that I normally would not have normally put in, like MLS number, APN number, list date, list price, maybe the HOA fees if the property is in an HOA, what the list price includes and excludes if it's been typed in on a listing. By page 3, we've got listing brokerage information already pre-typed in. Why is that? Because it pulled it from the MLS. So now what I can now easily do with Mls Connect is fill in listing data information on my contracts. And here we can jump over to the purchase agreement and we can see that information already pre-filled in for us, like the address and information about the listing office and things like that. And I haven't even typed in a single thing yet. So this is a great tool for us if we're representing buyers or tenants on properties to quickly and easily fill in information. Now, Mls Connect is not such a great tool if you're representing a seller. Why is that? Well, technically, the listing's not into the MLS yet until you get a signed listing agreement, so there's really nothing to import. And if I did try to import another agent's listing information onto my listing agreements, guess what I have to retype over anyway? All the listing data, right? Because I'm going to have different things like different list dates, expiration dates, different list prices, things like that. Even I'll have to even retype over the seller brokerage information with my information. So really, Mls Connect is not such a great tool if you're representing a seller. Great tool if you're representing a buyer or tenant, but not such a great tool if you're representing a seller or a landlord. Are there any questions on Mls Connect? No questions? Okay. All right, the next thing that we're going to go over before we dive more into the transaction itself, back here in our transaction list, I want to go over a couple of extra menu choices here at the transaction level that will help your lives a lot easier. One of those tools is called the Txn Tools. The Txn Tools stands for Transaction Tools. If we click on the down arrow here, we have several tools available to us. There are 2 tools that I really like to touch on today. The first is called the Mortgage Calculator. I love this tool. This tool is great if you're to help double check your math, but this is also a really great tool to help someone understand what their monthly payments could be, because what we're going to be able to show them are estimated values. And I'm just going to demonstrate this real quick if you want. So when I go to the Txn Tools and I click on the Mortgage Calculator, I just need 3 numbers. So say as an example, we have a loan amount. Maybe my client tells me that they're qualified to borrow at least $550,000 or $575,000. Okay. And maybe today's interest rate, what's today's interest rate? Well, let's be conservative, 3.75%. And maybe the loan terms is 360 payments. By the way, that's 30 years. So over 30 years, 12 payments per year. Over 30 years, that's 360 payments. So here with just these 3 numbers right away, I can tell someone that their estimated payments should be around $2,662 per month. give or take these extra expenses. Okay. Now, if you've got somebody who's currently renting and they're telling you, well, I don't know if I can actually afford to buy something right now, this, that, and the other, would I be paying more, for a home? You can actually plug in those numbers and now you can show them what they could potentially be saving. So maybe they're paying $3,300 a month for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 860 square foot apartment. Here, if they can qualify for a $575,000 loan at 3.75% for a 30-year fixed, now their payments are $2,662 per month. That's a huge savings to someone. Close to what? Almost $1,000 in savings. And maybe you've got a client that goes, well, really, what goes to principal? What goes to interest? Sure, down below here, we can say, well, starting with your first payment, maybe in June of 2020, we'll go to the display table. And now I can show a client, starting with their very first payment, what goes to principal, what goes to interest for the entire life of the loan. So that maybe by the end of 30 years, we can show them that they've paid back their $575,000, but they've also paid $383,000 in interest payments, which I know a lot of people go, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money in interest. Darn tootin'. That's why it's very important that we still have interest mortgage rate deduction laws, right? This is why we want to make sure that the government doesn't get rid of those types of laws, right? Because that's a lot of money to be able to write off and save. Now, I'm sure most of us are dealing with clients today with, well, what's the big deal if I wait? Should I make an offer now? Should I make an offer later? Yet we all know that interest rates can't keep going down. Eventually, they are going to start going back up. And you never know. Come next week when the governments all finally say, hey, everybody can now go show property, but now we need to make up for all these loans. So now all of a sudden we're going to increase interest. Let's show them the impact of interest. So maybe come tomorrow, the government finally says, okay, we need to raise interest rates today, 1% Okay. Now I know a lot of people go, well, really 1% is not a lot, is it? It may not sound like a lot, but let's show them. So right now at 3.75% at 575 for 30 years, they're paying $2,662 per month. But say come next week or come tomorrow, the government raises it 1% to 4.75. Now when I hit tab, we now all of a sudden see that their monthly payments have now changed from $2,662 per month to $2,999 per month. So an entire increase of monthly payment by $300 by just raising it 1%. Now all of a sudden what they were saving before, they're not saving as much now. Their buying power is ultimately just diminished, because if they were trying to keep their payments low for this price at that interest rate earlier, they're now all of a sudden not able to afford that loan or that home. And let's show you something else. Remember how we showed that 30 years, we were at 383 for the interest payments at the end of 30 years? Well, now when I go to the display table, if our monthly payments have gone up, do you think that your interest payments might have gone up? Let's see. Here, when I click on the display table, we see all of a sudden now their interest rate or their interest payments went up from 383 to 504. An increase of interest paid out by more than $100,000. So the amount that you were able to write off before, you can't write off as much today. So I think this is a really good tool, even though these are estimations, that I think these are really good tools to help buyers understand that, hey, here's the impact of interest. It's better to make an offer today when interest rates are low versus tomorrow when interest rates and the uncertainty of the market can really bite you in the end, right? What you can afford today, you might not be able to afford tomorrow. Sandra has a question here. Can you email me this webinar to watch it again? Of course. If you're attending, you are automatically registered, so I will email you this webinar at the end of today. or tomorrow morning. Okay. Are there any questions on the mortgage calculator? No? Okay. So let's go over the Txn tools, the transaction tools. The next button that I like to touch on is the Forms Tutor. I love this tool. What Forms Tutor is a tool that was designed by C.A.R. Legal to help you as an agent learn your forms. As you all know, that it is your fiduciary duty to make sure that your clients read and understand the forms, right? So it's vital that we as agents understand the form so that way when we're asked questions about the form, when a client reads it, we can now go over the form with them confidently. So even though Rancho Southeast Association of Realtors has C.A.R. Legal come down about once a quarter to go over the purchase agreement, there are other forms that we need to learn as well. So this is where Forms Tutor is going to help out, because maybe you've missed a class at the board, maybe you missed a class at your brokerage when the broker was going over some forms with you. In zipForms, because hey, education is important for everybody, click on the down arrow next to the Txn Tools and click on Forms Tutor. From here, we're going to be redirected back to CAR.org's website to the Forms Advisor Forms Tutor section. We're now going to scroll down, and underneath where it says Forms Tutor, we're now going to click on where it says Access Forms Tutor. When we click on that, Forms Tutor is going to open up, and now we have access to about 37 of the most commonly used forms. So maybe we need to learn about the RPA, so now we can click on the RPA, or type in RPA under a search, find it, click on it, and now the RPA contract will open up. Now, what's going to be unique about this tool here is that we're going to see the RPA look very normal, except that we're going to see these weird little blue dots throughout the entire form. Now, depending on the form, we're going to see little blue dots usually on every line, every paragraph, or every page, depending on the form. Now, in this case, because the RPA contract is so huge, let's try a different form just to simplify it a little bit. And let's go with this form. So here we're going with the BNA as an example. So here the form opens up. We see what the BNA looks like, but now we see these little blue dots throughout the entire form. Now, depending on the form, again, every page, every line, every paragraph. Now, when I click on a blue dot here, and let's try another one. There we go. Oh, looks like, looks like it got rid of a feature here, but when we click on a blue dot, what we see is a written explanation of that form, or of that line, or of that paragraph. Okay. Now there used to be an icon here, and I don't know why I'm not seeing it all of a sudden, because I know how it is sometimes. People do not like to read. And I get it. Sometimes it's hard to read the legal explanation of the legal language of a contract, right? And let's see if we get this on the other. Nope, there it goes. There we go. This is exactly what I want to see. So here we see the legal explanation of that line, of that paragraph, of that page. But I get it. Sometimes it's hard to read the legal explanation of the legal language of a contract, right? Well, in this blue box, if you'll notice here in the top left corner of this blue box, there is a sidewards triangle. That sidewards triangle is a play button. If we were to click on that play button, we are now going to hear, hopefully, and hopefully everybody can hear this, you hear an audio explanation of that line, of that paragraph, of that page. Okay, so this is a great learning tool for you as an agent to learn your forms. So not only can I get this, read about it, read the explanation, but I can now play the explanation to hear an audio explanation of it. So it's a great learning tool for us. So now once I learn what this form is all about, when a client asks me about a specific thing about this contract, whether it's a paragraph or a line or something on the page, I can now quickly and easily go over this contract with them. Does anybody have any questions on that? It is a great tool, by the way. Any questions so far? No other questions? Okay, good. All right, next thing real quickly that we're going to dive into a transaction. When we go into a transaction, here we're defaulted to the summary screen. Maybe I added the contracts, but now I need to go in and modify the contracts a little bit further. Here from the summary screen, on the gray bar near the top, just off to the right, we're going to now click on where it says Documents. Here will be displayed all my various different documents and forms that I've added into the transaction. Real quickly, just to go over a few menu choices very quickly here. Off to the top left, we have e-sign. This is where we begin to go and send out the documents for e-signature. The next button that we'll talk about is Add Doc. The Add Doc button, I love this tool. What this tool allows us to do is add in foreign documents like PDFs, Excel, Word, PowerPoint documents, even JPEG or picture files as part of our transaction. This is a great tool here, whether we're representing buyers or sellers, landlords or tenants, okay? We're gonna have various different documents that we're gonna be emailed or given to by other agents, our clients, et cetera, et cetera. And we wanna be able to access these documents from almost anywhere or generally in one place. Say as an example, this is an offer and my client needs to give me various other documents for their offer, right? Like proof of funds, earnest money deposit, check, bank statement, a letter from their lender, so on and so forth, right? And they typically email us all these types of documents. But now what do we do with all those documents? We probably download them, put them in a folder, save them on our computer. But then when we get documents signed, like the purchase agreement, and we need to submit an offer, we now have to create two different emails to send to the listing agent, right? One from the zip forms of the signed offer itself. And then, of course, then we jump into our email on our computer and then we create another email of all the other attachments, which now the listing agent might miss something, right? Or let's take it from the listing agent side. We get a lot of offers from other multiple agents. This is where the Add Doc button is going to help you out. So to add a document to our transaction, we're going to very simply click on where it says Add Document or Add Doc. We're now going to browse our computer for those documents. So make sure that you save those documents onto your computer because you want a copy there. Now, once we find the document, we're now going to click on it and say, okay. Now a copy from my computer has now been uploaded as part of my transaction. Now, I need to keep these documents also organized, right? So this is where Add the Folder comes in. So here what we can do is click on Add a Folder, and now we make a folder for where these documents should be going. So maybe we type in now Client Docs or Client Financials as an example. Now when I say OK, the folder has now been created in my transaction. Now I need to get this document into this folder. So how we do that is hover over top of the document, just like so, click and hold, drag it, and let go. Now we've just officially moved that document into this folder. So now when I click on that folder, there's the document. To get out of this folder, simply come over to the left, click on where it says folders, and now I get to just see all my other documents. Now, that was the long way of doing this. Let me show you the short way. The short way being this: create the folder first, name it, say okay. Now go into the folder and then add your documents. Okay. So buying agents, this is a great way of having your documents all in one place within the transaction. If you upload a PDF document into your transaction, zipForms will hold on to this transaction for up to 7 years, at which point they will then auto delete the transaction. But by then, you've got other copies stored on other platforms like your hard drive, your external drive, your cloud drives, so on and so forth. So zipForms acts as a great backup for all your documents for your transactions, okay? Now listing agents, You probably also want to create folders for all the multiple offers like offer 1, offer 2, offer 3, offer 4. Now add in all the individual offers into those folders. Now you've got one place where you can review documents with your sellers or offers with your sellers. So that's a really nice tool. And by the way, if you add a PDF file to your transaction, you can also digitally sign that document as well. You just have to indicate on that PDF to your clients where they need to sign an initial. But that will be for another class. All right. Are there any questions on the add doc or add folder so far? We're working pretty good? All right, good. All right, so now let's go into a form. So now we're just going to click on a form to edit a form. And when we click on the form, we've got multiple menu choices here as well, okay? You'll notice here while in the form, off to the left, we have the e-sign option as well. We even have the MLS Connect button here. So another way to add in the MLS data, as well as begin e-signing documents. Full screen, I love this button here. What this does is it makes this form take up the full size of the screen. So why would you ever use this? Well, as you all probably spend anywhere from 18 to 22 hours a day, 9 days a week in front of your computers. Even though this form takes a good portion of the size of the screen, this even gets blurry after a while, right? So zipForm said, let's help you save your eyes just a little bit. Click on where it says full screen while you're in the form. And now the form takes up the full size view of your screen. So it's now easier for us to read and type in what we need to type. The next button I think that is useful, fast fill. What fast fill does is it takes out all this pre-written legal text of a document and leaves in only the blank lines of the form. So you need to fill in the form very quickly and easily. Click on where it says fast fill, take out all this pre-written legal text, and now I can fill in the form from top to bottom quickly and easily. So it's a great way for us to be able to select what we need, type in what we need, so on and so forth. Okay. The next button after that, NA Fill. I love this tool. Now this tool was actually designed close to 15 years ago. And the reason why that they designed this tool was that there was a scenario or a situation where someone had handwritten terms on a contract without the originating party's knowledge while it was in escrow. Okay. I think the scenario was, or the situation was that someone or the listing agent had handwritten on the purchase agreement that $30,000 was to be paid by the buyer directly to the seller, and without the buyer or the buying agent's knowledge that it was submitted to escrow. So needless to say, there was a big court case about it. And the reason why that happened was there were a lot of lines left blank. I'm sure some of the agents in this room have written up many an offer or written up many a contract, and you were probably, your form looked similar to this, where you typed up some information, but you left most of the information on your forms totally blank, right? Well, this is where NA Fill helps out. What NA Fill does is it fills in the term NA, or not applicable, on any other typed or non-typed in areas. So before I send this document out for signatures, I've typed up my terms. Now, before I send this out for signatures, I'm going to come over to where it says NA Fill. I'm going to click, and now I'm going to say apply. Now, anywhere there could be typed or handwritten text is filled in with the term NA. So now when my client signs this form, instead of signing a form that's only been 5 or 10% filled in, I'm now getting them to fill in a form that's almost 100% filled in. So it's a really great tool to help protect your signers. Okay. Now, maybe you need to retype over a term. Not a problem. You can still click on the line and take out terms and add in terms. Not a problem. Okay. Now, there are other scenarios of, well, geez, I've got to retype over this entire form. Do you want to have to take out every instance of NA manually? Absolutely not. What you could do instead, come back over to NA Fill, click on it, and now choose the choice that says remove, And now this removes every instance of NA. So NA fill is a great way of making sure that your form is now fully filled in before you get your clients to sign. Okay. The next tool that we'll talk about, and the last tool that we'll talk about, is the Photos button. Some of you might have your screens up already, but in case you don't, your screen will probably look something like this. So here in your menu choices, you have a button that says Photos. Now, I love the Photos tool. What the Photos tool allows us to do is attach photos to our different contracts, okay, or any contract. The form that I see this most useful for is the AVID. Now, if you don't know what the AVID stands for, it stands for the Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure, okay? This is basically your physical inspection of a property, but there are some things that you can't say in a form due to risk, like the crack in the wall, right? Oops, wrong form. Can't say it's a big crack, small crack, or medium crack. It's a crack, right? This is where taking a photo of the problem is going to help you. So what you can now do is take that photo that you took of that problem, like the stain on the floor, stain on the ceiling, the crack in the wall, whatever, and now you can attach it to the contract. So here's how you do that. So we're going to be in the AVID, and say maybe in the AVID we have at the entry rain gutters don't seem to drain anywhere. If I can spell anywhere correctly. There we go. Now I know most of us would say, oh, geez, you know, what do you mean the rain gutters don't drain anywhere? They got to drain somewhere, right? That's the whole point of having a rain gutter, right? Well, you would think. So, but because I took a picture of the problem with my phone, I took the picture off my phone, put it on my computer. I'm now going to come over to where it says photos, and I'm going to click, and now I'm going to choose attach photo. Now I'm going to browse my computer for those photos. I'm going to click on it, and now I'm going to describe it. Rain gutters at entry. Now, before I actually do that, let me make sure I'm on the page. There we go. And let's try that again. Photos, attach, find it, click on it, and describe it. So, rain gutter at entry. Okay. Now I'm going to say OK. When I say OK, a photo reference has now been attached to the contract. I'm now going to move my mouse over top of the photo reference, click and hold, and drag it and place it where it needs to go. And I can place it anywhere it needs to be. Okay. Maybe I go to the next room. Maybe this time I've got, oh, I don't know. Let's go with bathroom this time. Bathroom number 1. Rail in bathroom is not waterproof. Right? Now you would think, well, what do you mean by that? Well, let's show you. Here, we're going to go back under our photos, attach a photo, browse our computer for that photo, and say rail in bathroom 1, shower. All right. Again, here we go. We grab the photo reference, move it to where it needs to go. So now what happens with these photos? So now when I send this document out for e-signatures, or I print it out on my printer, or I email it to my client for them to print out and sign, these photos are now going to be attached or displayed as extra pages after the last page of the contract. And let me show you what I mean. So here, if I preview this document as a PDF, we're going to open up the PDF document here of the AVID. Page 1 looks pretty normal. Why? Because we didn't attach photos to it. But we scroll down and we see here on page 2, at the entry, rain gutters don't seem to drain anywhere, reference to photo 1. Under bathroom 1, oops, and I said rain in the bathroom. I meant to say rail. Rail in the bathroom is not waterproof, reference to photo 2, photo 3, photo 4, so on and so forth, all the way through each and every room. Now we're going to see here after page 3 of this contract, there will be now all of a sudden a page 4. There's reference to photo 1, and here is the picture of the rain gutters that don't seem to drain anywhere. If you notice here, these are just two ends of a gutter that were at the entry. Now, by the way, this actually came off of our MLS system back in 2011, and the seller and the listing agent both said the home had rain gutters, and this is what they displayed. So go figure on there. But now we come down a little bit further. We see, oh, after page 4, there's my second photo for page 5, and there's the rail that's not waterproof that's in the shower. And basically, it's just a wooden rail that was just added in someone's shower. Okay. So now what we can do with these photos is now display what it is that we're seeing in the property, even though we can't describe it legally because we're not the railing experts. We're not the crack experts or the stain experts or anything like that. But yet we still have to make notes about what it is that we saw. The crack, the stain, the, the patio cracks, in the concrete, whatever, right? So this is a way for us to easily try to disclose without over disclosing. We leave it up to the client going, well, geez, what's causing that problem? What's, is it still happening? Is it going on? And we can advise them. We think that you should do extra inspections to find out what causes it or what's caused it, what it is, if it's still happening, or if it was fixed. Okay. So those are important things, and we leave that up to our clients to make those determinations. Okay. I like this feature here, that photos feature, not just for the Avid, but other contracts like the repair request. Great for a listing agent a buying agent. You get the inspection done. You get your inspector to email you a copy of those photos. So now when you're putting the inspection report together or the repair request together, you can now put next to your request of repairs what line items you want repaired. You can now attach the photo right next to it, which is great because it helps the listing agent and the seller not have to look at a separate contract, right, or a different document. Also great for the MIMO, the move in, move out. You walk around with the tenant, you take pictures of the current conditions of the property, you put it in the MIMO, they sign it. Now you've got it before. Now when they go to move out, you walk around with your brand new MIMO, you take brand new photos. Now you've got it before and after. So no longer can tenants say, this was always like that when we moved in. Really? This is what it looked like before. This is what it looks like now. So I would definitely say this is a huge game changer in your business. And I think that if you're doing that for all of your transactions, no one can argue, or no one should ever make an argument that you did not disclose. So I would look at things like that. Okay. Are there any questions on this? I know this was a long part of the class, but do you have any other questions? All right. Ready for me to show you one last thing here, and then I'll let you go for the day or evening. You ready? All right, good. So last thing that we're going to go over is templates. Now the templates are really great because what you can now do is put together a core set of forms that you use for multiple styles of transactions. And what I mean by that is that you're going to put together templates for your buyers, your sellers that you constantly negotiate terms on, but instead of creating brand new transactions where you have to grab the forms from scratch and fill out everything from scratch, what a template allows you to do is put together a core set of forms that you use for those types of transactions, and you can put in some very generic basic information that you don't have to keep retyping over and over again. Typically, terms that you probably negotiate for 90% of those clients of that type, okay? A template can save you anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes per transaction. So in a day and age where time is of the essence, it's super important. We have to be super efficient with our time, okay? So to make a template, very easy. We're going to come over here to the top on the dark blue bar, and we're going to click on the Templates tab. Here in the Templates tab, this will now display all your created templates. Well, if you've never created templates before, this will all be blank. So to create a template, we're going to come over towards the top left and click on New. Like creating a transaction, we're now going to select what type of template we're going to make. Are we creating a new listing template for a seller? Are we creating a new purchase offer template for a buyer, a new lease template for a landlord, or a new lease listing for a tenant? Well, we're going to say create a new purchase template for my buyers. Now we're going to name it, but unlike a transaction where we're naming it client property specific, we're going to name a template client property generic. And what I mean by that is because we're making a purchase template, maybe you want to call it purchase or buyer or standard sale buyer. Or maybe if you're dealing with in the REO world, maybe it's a REO buyer. Or maybe this is a short sale template. Whatever you want. If you're creating a listing template, call it listing, call it seller, call it standard sale, call it REO sale, call it whatever you want. So here we're going to name it. We're now going to choose the category. We're going to say leave it at the do not automatically apply choice. The reason why is that I want to be in charge of what templates get applied to what transactions. Reason why I do that is that, one, I do not necessarily want this template to be applied to any purchase transaction. And I make a offer on a commercial property for one of my commercial investors. I don't want my standard purchase transaction for a residential property to be applied to that type of transaction. Just like I don't want this template to be applied to all of my transactions. Because what happens if I make a lease? Do I want my purchase template to be applied to a lease? No. Leave it at do not automatically apply. That way you can be in full control over what templates get applied to what transactions. Now from here, I'm going to hit save. Now I'm going to come over to the top left and add in the necessary forms for this template. One form that I recommend for any and all transactions is the cover sheet. The cover sheet has all the common areas of all the forms, like client's information, property information, your information. Because we're doing a purchase transaction, maybe you choose this as a purchase agreement. One thing I would recommend is that you talk to your broker and ask them if they have a list of forms required for every transaction. Ask them if they have a required list for a buyer and a required list for a seller. They'll usually tell you that they do, and they'll usually give you a list of forms. What you want to do is take that list of forms for your templates and now find them very quickly and easily, right? And add them. Once you've added those forms from that list, now you're going to go into the forms and you're going to put in your generic information. Now, what's some of your generic information? Your generic information is like your name and your company and your DRE license number. So as an example here on the purchase template, my company is Jack and Jill Real Estate. My broker's DRE license number, our address, 183rd, right? Cerritos, California, so on and so forth, right? And then, of course, my name as their agent. So I'm the buyer's agent. Put in my DRE number, things like that, right? Even my email address. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put in some of the generic terms that I always try to negotiate for this type of client, right? So for all my purchases, do I usually have more than one buyer? Probably. I usually have about two. Maybe I indicate, typically, do we close escrow by day or days? Maybe standard for me, I always try to negotiate a 45-day escrow period. Maybe typically all my offers are loans, so maybe not to exceed 5%, things like this, right? So you're going to go in and you're going to type in your generic information. Who pays for what? Buyer or seller? Plug all that information in, right? Just like so. Now you're going to save it. So now once you save that generic information, you're now ready to apply your templates to a transaction, okay, for your specific clients. Now, I will tell you that you're probably going to have at least a minimum of 2 different templates, maybe 3. The first template should be a listing template for your seller for a residential for sale property. Another template should be for your buyer to buy a residential property. And maybe a third template should be your disclosures, okay, for your seller. I would say for your seller's template, you probably just want the bare minimum to get the property listed, like the listing agreement, so on and so forth. But for your disclosures, separate that out into its own template, because you can always apply a template to a transaction after, okay, you make it. Okay. So once you make those templates, those are at least your bare minimum 2 or 3. Okay. Now we're ready to apply those templates to a specific transaction. So now when my buyer wants to make an offer and I'm creating a new transaction for my buyer, okay, for residential, now down below I should have a button here or a choice here that says select a template. Underneath that, I can now click on the down arrow and select the appropriate template I need to apply to this transaction. So now when I hit save, all those generic terms, all those forms are now immediately applied to this transaction, just like so. So now those 3 forms were immediately applied the moment I applied that template and created the transaction. So now what do I need to do? I now need to go in and type in the specifics of the form, right? What are my specifics? My specifics are buyer information or client information, I should say. So maybe my client's information, just like so. Husband, wife, their email addresses, maybe the property address at this point, the list price or offer price, so on and so forth, right? But maybe in this case for this buyer, some of my terms will change. But if we look here real quickly, information's now again already pre-typed in. So I shouldn't have to change much. But maybe in this time, instead of a 45-day escrow, my client wants to close on a specific date. Like, oh, I don't know, May 20th. Maybe in this time, or in this case, they don't want to get a loan. My client's offering all cash. The idea behind this template is that my client, I've now quickly and easily pulled together the forms, and now I just need to change a few terms. Maybe a few of those terms are the client doesn't mind paying for certain things at this point. Now I can get this form quickly and easily out to the client for them to digitally sign. That's the benefit of a template. Are there any questions on templates? Are there any questions so far? Looks pretty easy. Okay. All right. I've got one more thing to show you, if I may. Oh, I've got a question come through. Yes, Sandra, you had a question? Oh, yes. Yes, it looks easy. Okay, I gotcha. All right. One last thing I want to show you today. And I'm basically going to help you dip your toes into the water here, getting you ramped up for our digital signing class that will specifically focus on digital signing contracts. And that class is going to be, or that webinar is going to be on April 17th at about 1:30, or I'm sorry, yeah, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Go to rsaor.com for that webinar, sign up for that webinar. But we're just going to show you basically how to get started in digitally signing contracts. Now, Marcel Johnson, who's going to be the trainer of that class, he's going to go over all those fun things in that class for you, of how to actually digitally sign and get you prepared. But let's get you started, because I know that's pretty much what you're going to need to start doing right away. So we've written up our contracts. We're going to get everything written up for our clients, and now we need to send it out to them electronically. Now, typically, you have several choices, one of which is DocuSign, the other one is Digital Ink. Now, what we're going to demo real quickly today is Digital Ink. This is your free signing service offered to you by C.A.R., and this will allow a signer to electronically sign documents through their computer, okay? They don't have to necessarily print out documents to print them, physically write their name on it, scan it, and send it back to you. It is a choice. They can do that, but typically today, most clients like to do the digital signatures. Now, before you do any digital signing, I always recommend that every agent make sure that all parties involved are okay with accepting digitally signed documents. Make sure your title, your lender, your escrow are okay with accepting digitally signed documents. Make sure the other agent on the other side of the transaction is okay with accepting digitally signed documents. It's a very simple, hey, do you accept digitally signed documents? They'll tell you yes or no if they do or don't. And then, of course, most importantly, make sure that your client is okay with doing digital signatures. I would say a big indicator that your client is probably not going to be okay with doing digital signatures are the clients that do not have email addresses. If they do not do email or they're not very comfortable with technology, then they're probably not going to be comfortable in doing digital signatures. Okay? So communicate with your clients to make sure that they're okay with doing that. But if they are, then very easy. We're going to show you how easy it is to set up and send out documents. Ready? We're going to be in a transaction. In the transaction, we're going to have the transaction typed up. In this case, I'm going to send my purchase agreement, my commission agreement, and maybe a PDF document over to my client. From here, where I get to see all my digital signed all the documents that I can send out for digital signatures, I'm going to come over to the top left corner and click on where it says e-sign. When I do that, e-sign opens up. From here, this will give me a list of all my digital signing history for the transaction. Typically, if this is my first time doing this, for this transaction, this will all be blank. To start a new session, come over to the top left and click on where it says New. From here, I'm going to select what documents my client needs to digitally sign. Now, just on a note that if I select a PDF document, know right away I need to indicate to my signers where they need to sign an initial. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. So with the documents selected, we're now going to hit close. From here, we are now going to, with the documents selected, with our digital signing service selected, in this case, Digital Ink, we're now going to come over towards the top left corner or right corner and click Next to go to stage 2. Now, this is where the power of the cover sheet comes in. If on page 1 of the cover sheet, if I have my signer's first name, last name, and email address filled in, then the first name, last name, and email address of the signer will be automatically filled in here. If I do not use the cover sheet, then only the first name and last name of the signer will be placed here. Before I can select them, I will then have to click on where it says email and manually type in their email address. Now, if this was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, how coherent am I to write in their email address? Unless I've had a lot of Monsters or Red Bulls or all of the above, I would say put in the cover sheet to save up on the typing, okay? With their information typed in, I can now very quickly and easily select my signers, including myself. There we go. With my signer selected and I hit close, this puts them in order of selection. Just to note, the order of selection is the order in which the email goes out in. We can switch the order if we choose. So if Mandy tells me that she can get to the documents in 5 minutes before her husband Darth, I can make sure that Mandy gets the documents first. From here, I'm now going to go next. So here we're just going to switch that around again. I'm now going to go next, stage 3, the most important part. Here we can add in cybersecurity if we choose. I will say that it is a fee of about $5 per transaction. Oh, but it looks like they changed that today to be free. So you can now add in cybersecurity at no cost to you. And now we can go next. When we go next, here's what I like about Digital Ink. First thing I like about Digital Ink is that the form takes up the full-size view of the screen, just like so. At the top middle here, what document we're currently reviewing and adding in tasks for. Over just to the left is the signer. Over to the far left are tasks that I can drag and drop for the current signer on a form. Now, just as a rule of thumb, 90% of your forms in zipForms already have the digital areas pre-placed. As an example here, if we are looking in the RPA or Residential Purchase Agreement, we're going to scroll down and we can see that Darth and Mandy's signature areas have already been pre-placed. Don't worry that you already see their names already populated in here. They have not signed yet. How do you know you haven't signed it? Because you haven't sent it yet. This is just as a reminder to say this is where Darth's signature is going to go, and this is where Mandy's signature is going to go. Just like this is where my signature is supposed to go. So real quickly, we can see that 90% of the forms already have those areas pre-placed. So what I could do essentially is click on the down arrow and jump to the forms that I know for sure do not have those areas, like that PDF document. So very easy. I can come down on that PDF, and now where I want them to sign or initial, simply select the signer, come over to the far left, click and hold on their task, drag it, and let go. Now we've just placed Darth's signature on this document. I can now switch to the next signer and drag and drop their signatures. What you want to do ideally here at stage 3 is make sure that every signer in your list has at least one thing to do in every document. If you do that, then when you hit send, this will now go out to the very first signer within the next 30 seconds. What then happens is they get an email, they click on the email, they now go through the process of signing the documents. Now at the end of the day, when everybody is done signing all the documents, you as an agent get two major things. One, you get an email that says the documents are now completed, and in that email are the attached PDFs of everyone's signature on all the documents. The second thing you get is in the transaction itself. And in this transaction, a folder is automatically created within the first 30 seconds that says signature packet completed on such and such date at such and such time. And in that folder are the signed PDFs. And from now within zipForms, I can now email these documents out to the other agent, or do with however I see fit. So that's how quickly and easily you can literally get documents physically signed or digitally signed. Are there any questions on this? I know we went a little bit over, but by 15 minutes, but does anybody have any questions on anything that I showed them today? No questions at all? Man, you guys are making it super easy on me today. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Oh, there is a question that came through. Well, looks pretty easy. It is super easy, Sandra. You just got to practice with it. As a matter of fact, what I would recommend doing is I would create a test transaction. Just make a transaction, call it test, and start adding in forms and playing with all the tools. That way, when you start actually doing more and more business, you'll just start doing things very, very quickly. Exactly, practice. Well, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me. My email is tony@ocrealtors.org, or feel free to email me or call me at 949-586-6800 extension 104, or you can feel free to call the board at 562-860-5656, and Marcel will be more than happy to answer any and all your calls as well. So with that said, I want to thank everybody very much for attending today's webinar, and I hope everybody has fun today playing with your zipForms. And We look forward to seeing you for our April 17th class, which is during the day. And I hope everybody stays safe and has fun. With that said, thank you all very much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.